I would say most important is that you actually have political courage and leadership. In that, if you're going to implement something like an e-governance policy, you'll be doing things that are new to people, and you have to explain them. You also have to have the political courage in the beginning to undertake them, which is a big thing. Then you have to go and explain to people what you're doing and why it's good. And then the third key factor, I would say, is that you implement policies that people like. That means that you provide services that people like, that you don't run off immediately going to computerize the tax authority so they can get your money better, but rather you offer things that people indeed want to have that comes from digitization. What was clear to us, in order to do something, education is the key. And so already in 94, 95, 96, we began to put computers into the school system, getting to the point where by 1998, 97, 98, all schools in Estonia were online. Now with children, it's not so hard to convince them. So they took all this up very readily. But children are not the only people who use computers, or we think should be able to use computers. So there was an NGO, private sector initiative in the late 90s to actually teach those people who are probably least likely to use a computer, the older rural population. And so we had a program where people would go around the countryside and invite people to come to this big bus and see how a computer works and how it's easy and it's not scary. There are different messages for different groups. Different people have different interests, and if you want to bring society along with this, you have to sort of think hard on how you get one group or get another group. To be honest, we started with the kids because we know that they're the ones who are most likely to take it all up. And once the children were playing with computers, as it were, then the rest of society generally tends to come along. These days, we actually teach computer programming from first or second grade, depending on the school. But you do need to get to the point where it's more than just a computer game. So you have to think carefully about how you do education. Well, in my country, the private and the government sector cooperate very well. There are many reasons for this. One is that the IT people in government all went to school with the people who are on the business side, and also there is people move back and forth between government and the private sector. We also have programs in cybersecurity, which actually invites the private sector to come and assist in developing cybersecurity initiatives. But what helps us is that whatever frictions might be between the private sector and the government sector, the common threat of digital intrusions, of cyber attacks, far outweighs sort of petty concerns that you might have. But rather, we have a fairly good partnership between the IT companies who realize that they need the government to guarantee, sort of keep them out of trouble with cyber attacks, and the government, of course, realizes that the economy is vulnerable if an outsider comes in and does something to our private sector. My point for years has been, without a secure digital identity, systems will fall apart. That is the key to everything, and it's what distinguishes successful e-governance from unsuccessful e-governance. Now, to get a secure identity, and it also must be universal, because unless the identity is universal, you will not have services developed that allows a country to move into the digital era. So you have to have then the third factor, which, as I mentioned before, is the political courage to enact policies that in the beginning may not be so popular. If you tell the country that, okay, now everyone's going to have our digital ID, which will then allow us to perform secure operations digitally, not everyone will come along with it.